Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Leo. How's it going, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Lovely hot weather here. We're enjoying the UK. How about yourself?
Yeah, I can tell. It looks like you have a tan, shall we say? Hi. Yeah,
Is that an air quotes
here.
moment, Sarah? Tan.
Air
Yeah,
quotes,
quote.
the tan. I'm trying to be kind to you. We'll call it a tan. No, I hope you put aloe vera on that face. In Barcelona, it's been the opposite. I'm telling you, we can't have good weather all at the same time. So it was really, really hot. And then we had we were supposed to have torrential downpours and thunderstorms and electrical storms and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like even the government, I think after what happened in Valencia earlier in the year, they're all panicked. And so they sent out these massive alerts anytime that they think there might be the slightest chance of flooding. And so we got about 7 of those on Saturday. I woke up in the morning because I went with a friend and we were supposed to go for a hike up to Tibidabo, which is like a church up in the hills of Barcelona. It's beautiful. And I'm keeping one of my friend's dogs. And so we went with the puppies and she was like, "You sure? It says it's going to rain." I was like, "It's not going to rain." And sure enough, it did not rain. So we did our little hike and it was fabulous. And we actually, on the way down, got to have a little drink at a spot that usually it's called the balconies, basically, of Barcelona. And it overlooks the whole city and it's beautiful. And we never get a spot because always we go hiking when it's popular to go hiking. And so there's always no room. And this time, because everybody thought it was going to rain, nobody went hiking. So we were alone on the trails. Which is fabulous. And we were able to get a nice front row seat on the balconies overlooking the city to have a drink afterwards. So it was nice.
I love that, buddy. Fortune favors the brave, right? You really went for it.
Yeah, it did. It did. And then we were supposed to go to this outdoor cinema thing, but it got canceled because of the rain. And then apparently they turned it back on. But by the time they said that they were going to do it, it was too late for us to get there on time because it's opposite side of the city. So it would have taken us 45 minutes, which for anybody based in I think London and Paris and places like that, they think we're ridiculous. That seems long to me, but that is my limit. It might as well not even be in the city. So we just ordered in sushi and put on a movie and at home. It was really nice. Yeah.
Sounds fab. We had great weather. I had my cousin's 50th as well on Saturday night. That was quite fun. I had 3 bottles of beer and woke up with a hangover. So that's where I'm at the moment. It doesn't seem bad, does it? But yeah, lovely weekend. I kind of get you about the not traveling too far. When we were in London, we'd go an hour to see friends, and now Brighton is a 10-minute city. So anything more than sort of 15 minutes in the car, and you're really debating it. You're really questioning it. But luckily, you don't really need to go. It's very, very walkable city. But yeah, we had a lovely time. So Friday night we got off work early, and we took Sadie and Alfie to the beach, and they were both messing around in the sea. And Sadie was swimming away and she said to me, "Oh, Dad, this is the 3rd time I've been to the beach today." And I was like, come on, what a life this kid is having, right? What a life. I grew up in the northwest of England. It was raining every day. Every single day.
I don't know if that's good for her or if you're setting her up for failure, Leo. Maybe she's got too good of a life. Nothing's ever going to be as good as her childhood, buddy.
Well, I'm just hoping this never leaves. I don't want it to ever leave me, right? I wanted to stay in my house forever. So that's the game, isn't it? That's the game. Or she'll want something completely different. She'll go and move somewhere snowy or, inland because she wants something different. Who knows? But yeah, I was thinking, I didn't wear sun cream my whole childhood because it was never warm enough, and certainly never sunglasses. Whereas she goes to beach nursery. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I want to see her cute sunglasses. I have a feeling she already has starting a collection, and I need to know.
A lot of pinks, a lot of different shades of pink.
Good, good. That's
all
my
right.
girl.
Let's get into it, gang. So I'm Leo Walton. This is Sarah Nandapray. I said your name. Come on, Leo. How long have we been doing this? Come on. And this is Sarah.
No, we like it. We like it. I'll accept any pronunciation.
Okay, I'm going to go for it again then. Okay, so this is Sarah Nandapray, and we are Good Morning Hospitality Europe. Okay, great. So, big week of stuff going on. Let's start with interesting news from the space, which is that Travel Chapter travel chapter have acquired beach retreats. So the article is from Short-Term Rentals. It announces that Travel Chapter, who are a very prominent UK holiday letting company, have acquired beach retreats, who have 230 coastal properties in Cornwall, all within walking distance of the beach. Formerly owned by the Watergate Hotel, beach retreats will continue to operate under the same existing brand name, but be part of Travel Chapter's portfolio. This is how they kind of like to operate, right? They like to keep companies in their own name, but just leverage a bit like Holiday and Home to Go models that like to use their technology and milk the cow a bit more by making sure that all the systems are integrated and they're letting guests book from within their network into other affiliate businesses. So I think it's a good deal. I think it's always been a really strong business, beach retreats. So Andy Easton is really well known. I'm desperate to try and get him on to a breaking news show actually for us. He's always been focused on getting direct bookings, always from the word go. And I think I don't want to misquote, but I think they're always in the high 90s or at least the mid 90% of how
incredible
they are. It is, and it shows, it's testament to knowing your market. They really do understand who their client is. And obviously they're in a very holiday focused market. So it's Devon and Cornwall, but Devon and Cornwall, similar buying patterns. And so I don't think their owners are necessarily expecting bookings midwinter, but they know when the busy season is, how to price it and how to make sure their owners are happy with the return. And really, since COVID, you've had lots of people having a look at the UK market who previously would have always gone abroad. And the UK is getting warmer. My slightly sunburned face is testament to that, I suppose. But yeah, the UK is slightly getting warmer. And the staycation boom seems like it's here to stay. So you've got a very traditional holiday market, always, Devon and Cornwall, which has got more and more interest in it. Prices in the school holidays are certainly getting very, very, very high. So I can totally see why Travel Chapter have gone for the acquisition. And for other property managers, I think it's a really good lesson in how important it is to try and get direct distribution, because it just makes your product, your properties more valuable to the potential buyer. It's also another bit of sort of rolling up, so a little bit of consolidation in the space. We're obviously in host and stay, quite aggressively going after it as well, and now Travel Chapter. So there's a bit of an arms race. We know Sykes do it too, to get people under your umbrella of your brand. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it shows that we're in a buoyant market. The UK market's looking very strong at the moment. So I'm not surprised to see this strategic move. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. And I think one of the things that surprised me, and I'm curious to get your take on what you think is going to change, but I thought it was interesting that previously was owned by a hotel company. And I think it's an interesting move that it's now kind of going back to basics of being acquired by Travel Chapter, who obviously is super involved and really focused in the short-term rental space, sort of traditional holiday lets. I think it seems to be a better fit, perhaps. And I also really like the companies in general, the three that you mentioned that are acquiring right now. I love the Sykes. I love the host and stay. I like Travel Chapter. I like them getting back into the business because it feels to me like they're companies that have always done it right. And they were always kind of on the fringes of like, I don't know, we don't think we need the big OTAs. We've been doing this for, I don't know, probably, I won't say hundreds of years, but I mean, holiday lets have existed in this kind of traditional format for quite some time, way before the internet. And so I really like it. I think it allows for the more hyper local approach. I think it allows for much more unique inventory. And I think you hit the nail on the head. These are companies that really know their market, because to get a 90% or even a 60 or 70% direct booking rate, that's really, really impressive. It means that you 100% know who your customer is, where to find them, how to target them. You're really good at that repeat business as well. And it also means that you're doing a good job of managing the properties that you have in the portfolio, because otherwise these people would not come back. And a lot of these markets, as you mentioned, they are sort of these traditional staycation holiday destinations where you're going to have a lot of those repeat travelers. So I actually really I really liked this story. It made me happy. I don't know why. I always like it when it's more of the traditional guys that are kind of getting back to basics. It makes me, obviously they're big companies. And so So it's not like, the little guy winning necessarily, but I do think it is the hyper local big guys winning, if we can use that term. So yeah, I liked it. I think they're companies that have proven time and time again that they understand the market. And I think that's what we need more of. I think we need a lot less of the cookie cutter. This model works everywhere, so it's going to work in these different places. And I think that's not always the case. And we've seen that time and time again, with, larger companies that try and make things too homogenous. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see where it goes. But I was excited about this acquisition. I like it.
Yeah, I thought you would be. It definitely appeals to you love the traditional holiday letting side of it. And you're right, even though it is big, it's bigger brands, it's big traditional brands that have been around for a while. What does it mean for the owners? Well, hopefully not a lot will change, because Travel Chapter really do understand this market. So, they can just hopefully benefit from having more eyeballs on their properties that are which is, again, it's very much like the Holiday Home to Go playbook in Europe that we're seeing rolled out in the UK with Travel Chat to Sykes and Host and Stay, which is like keeping that local presence. I'll use that phrase again, hyper local, that you've just used. But can we cut some costs by having you plugged into the wider ecosystem? And surely they can, streamlining financial processes and host payouts and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I think it's really important. And again, we love seeing unique inventory being snapped up, and therefore not necessarily going into the arms of the big aggregators. I also wonder if these travel brands that are more in the service than in the distribution, it makes sense to double down on buying the part of the industry that's involved in the service, because I think that is the most resilient to the AI challenge. So I think that's probably driving some of the arms race here as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point you make about AI. We'll comment on that a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, spoiler alert, I agree with you.
I teed you up. Okay, great. And then, so really good news. We are going to try and get Andy on for to get his side of the story, to hear the scoop. Now, guys, come on. It's been a couple of weeks without me mentioning trains. I couldn't not. I was so excited. I think I WhatsApped you on Friday night. That's how exciting my life was on Friday. I was like, look at this great article. Okay.
10:30 p.m. on Friday night, and all Leo's thinking about is this next article. What does that say?
I did have a beer in my hand, I think. I had a low alcohol stout in my hand. So, come on. I know how to party. Okay. After serious floods and landslides, some of the great Alpine routes have reopened. Amazing. So there's an article from The Guardian, with also new services being added, offering unforgettable train journeys from Austria to the Adriatic. Okay. This article celebrates the reopening of these crucial Transalpine rail routes, particularly the Austria's Tauern Railway, after closure due to floods. And I think what's really exciting here is they're also adding new services as well. So we're going to see more connections between Austria and Italy. And you don't need Switzerland and Italy also, and you don't need me to tell you what you will all know your European history. These great cultural routes that have existed for hundreds of years that transcend wars and stories and families. And Europe is such a melting pot in this area, right? It's, you get people in northern Italy who feel more culturally Austrian, but actually they're on the Italian side of the border, and vice versa. And there's this real mix. It's absolutely fantastic. And so what I like about this is it shows there is demand for experience-based travel over speed. We're not just obsessed with how quickly can I fly to this next destination, but people are thinking about how beautiful the route might be going from A to B. So I think that's very exciting. It's very exciting. We know that where people can take the time in Europe, the train is the absolute best way to see it. Where do I think it's interesting for short-term rental hosts specifically is if you live on one of these new routes, if you have properties on one of these routes that's opening up, really interesting opportunity to start to sell the virtues of your town and why it's worth getting off the train and staying there. So I'm sure we'll be able to see it in the data after the line gets established, what it does to the price per night in those areas. And obviously it's eco-friendly, which we love, wherever we can encourage people to find the road less traveled and hit towns that aren't already very, very over populated by tourists in the peak seasons. I think it's a great thing. And then it also, for me, brings me onto this idea that I think we know in Europe we have this amazingly rich history. So let's lean into that. And as property managers, hospitality people, what can we do to connect with local tourism boards to say, look, we've got properties in this historic town. What can we all be doing to raise the bar slightly? So in America, you'll know this better than I, Sarah, there's a really good set of DMOs, direct marketing organizations, that work for these local towns. We don't do enough of that in Europe. I really think we need to do more of it. So like, what's the history of these medieval towns? What's the cultural crossover between Austria and Italy, this really important route? Let's get the towns on this rail route to come together and sell it to tourists and create content to bring people in. And let's all work together on that, because I think there is a big opportunity there if people know about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna surprise you actually. When you first sent me the article, I thought, oh gosh, not another train article. But I have to say, I'm not opposed to trains as long as the route is pretty. I think a lot of the times the problem I have is like, I don't know, like a train that goes underwater, that's not pretty unless you can see fishes, which I don't think you can. So then the whole thing is ruined. If it was a glass tunnel, like it might actually freak me out. So I don't know. I really like these. I think there's some certain nostalgia. And as you say, if it can become part of the journey, even if it is longer, then that's part of the experience. Right? So ultimately people are willing to pay for that. And I think this is a great idea and a really great way of getting people to think about alternative forms of transportation and really thinking about the journey, which is something that we've been talking about a lot, especially over the last couple of years. And it's something that I think Gen Z has really captured very well. It's not about I'm going from point A to point B. It really is about the whole trip rather than a specific destination or hopping from destination to destination. So I really like this. I thought it was interesting, an interesting tidbit or talking point as well, I guess, on the destination marketing organizations or those DMOs. And what makes them so successful in the States is that they are actually funded in most part by occupancy tax. So that is levied both on hotels as well as on short-term rentals. And that kind of creates this environment where both short-term rentals and hotels are wholly taken into account when the destination is being marketed, as well as when the destination is going up for an event, for example. So just something to throw out there. Usually in Europe, they're all government funded, and that means that they're barely funded because, especially depending on the region, there may be political things at stake where people don't want over tourism or don't want this and that. But yeah, it's definitely a model that I think would be an interesting one to look at in Europe and for us to consider adopting at the more governmental level. It then means that short-term rentals are contributing equally as hotels. It creates a lot less us versus them mentality. And then, of course, because it's paid by the occupancy tax, then the members that kind of support that destination marketing organization get a say as well a lot of times in the types of campaigns or in what's going on. So anyway, just some potentially off-topic conversation.
No, I think that's really, really interesting, because I was at the Visit England Awards a few weeks ago, and it was the same thing. It was like, we know that funding for this stuff has been cut to the ribbons because, when it's seen as a central government dishing out the money, then obviously there's more important concerns. However, if you see it as a revenue driver, we've said this before, it's about cities and local areas planning the type of tourists they want and promoting their wares in a way that makes sense for them, to make sure they balance local needs versus the need to drive revenue into your area and get the hotels and short-term rentals, shops, cafes, bars buzzing at certain times of year. It's really, really good. So no one's disputing that. And so I think going back to how it's funded is really smart, because we talk about this as well, right? With the idea that people complain about the cruise ships, but then if they're not taxing them properly, then what is the point, really? So it's all two sides of the same coin, truth be told. Then a final point on this idea of the slower side of travel is, I think you're right. I think Gen Z are more into the experience-based travel idea, because we've all done it. You travel a shorter distance, but you meet such a variety of people. You hear the accent change, you hear the culture slightly change, the food around you changes. Like, you really live it, you breathe it, you see it. When I was a lot younger, I did interrailing around Europe, and I still remember it, because you get talking to different locals on the trains you're on, and you really kind of consume the culture you're in, and it's a very rich experience. So I think that's right. Alrighty, okay, Sarah, tell us where we're going next, my friend.
where we're going next. Yeah, so you touched on it a little bit previously, but this is an article from FocusWire. Travelers increasingly turning to AI for leisure trip planning, which is something that we've been chatting about quite a bit as of late on the pod. But this article in particular is based on a piece of research that came out by Boston Consulting Group. And it interviewed approximately 5,000 travelers across Australia, China, India, Indonesia, Germany, Mexico, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, UK, US, and Vietnam. And these are all countries that have populations that either travel frequently or are expected to do so in the future. And for me, one of the things that came out of the study that I found really interesting is, and the reason that the study was kind of conducted in the first place, was that according to BCG, leisure travel is expected to triple from $5 trillion to $15 trillion by 2040. And in particular, the next wave of travelers, they're expecting from emerging markets. So China, India, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, as an example, as opposed to a lot of the more traditional travels like US, UK, Germany, etc. This, for me, touches on something that you mentioned earlier, which is absolutely we need to use technology, but we can make sure that the travelers are still happy by having that human touch. So one of the interesting pieces of data in the article was basically talking about how China, India, Vietnam, and Indonesia, all above a 51% response rate on this, had the highest number of travelers that were using AI-powered tools or chatbots in their planning. However, they also are among those who had the highest percentage of respondents say that the human touch was still extremely important. And so I think this, for me, highlights exactly what we were talking about earlier with the beach retreats acquisition. It's both. and I think the future is both, and the way to get it right is both. So absolutely, you can have an AI chatbot help you plan your trip, but when somebody lands in destination, what really matters is that human touch, and that's what's going to make the difference. So I think that you can have too much of a good thing. You can overuse AI. But when applied properly and combined with that really hyper-local human touch, then it can be something really, really special. So yeah, that's sort of the main takeaways that I had from this piece. What do you think, Leo?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you've nailed it. I think the big challenge for people in the industry right now is not necessarily the service provider; it's the aggregator, isn't it? It's the pure middleman who, which is why, again, well, I'll go back to what we said at the start, which is why you've got companies still trying to make sure they're involved in the service side of this, or like taking unique inventory that's only on maybe that gets most of its bookings directly and pulling that into their wider business, like Holiday Home to Go, Sykes, Host and Stay, Travel Chapter, and others. Because without that, I think there's an opportunity for those providers and smaller property managers and hosts to execute their own chatbots and start to control their own distribution, such that if they do it well, because again, when I read the article, I had the same experience, right? People still want to talk to a human at some point. It might be when they arrive, or it might be in the booking process. So you still have to have that kind of front page for them to access as well and have a look at what the listing is. But if it's interactive, it's up to date, it's AI chatbot enabled, you're much more likely to get the person's AI agent speaking to your AI agent on your side, and before you know it, you've generated the booking directly into your system. So the opportunity is clearly there, but the risks are there, because you then need to make sure that the booking is safe, the person is who they say they are, and you can make sure you can put a smile on their face. So if the experience becomes completely anonymous, then how do you expect that to build any brand loyalty around what it is you're trying to do? You still want to make sure that you are, however you can be, front and center, using technology, leveraging technology to make it more scalable, but still putting a human where you can put them. And I've often thought, and I'm probably wrong, by the way, so I'm happy for someone to berate me on LinkedIn about this. But if you're leveraging all this technology, why can't you just have a couple of people in the field going around and trying to just see, hey, do you guys need anything, or I'm going to turn up and check you're settling in okay? Like, do that. Why not, right? Like, let's not be a purely tech business. Let's be a hospitality business. Basically, I think that's the job I want. I want someone to hire me to go around on a bicycle and say hi to everybody when they've arrived at their properties. But try and earn that guest coming back to you directly next time. But again, yes, there's a huge opportunity right now, and I think there is absolutely an existential threat right now for the companies that only go there. So, I think, booking.com, Airbnb would be, I think there's a threat to their market because they haven't diversified their portfolio with direct management companies or PMSs, like the others have. And a certain portion of their properties are just where they keep a brand alive because they know they have a load of direct bookings coming to that brand. They haven't done that. They've just gone, we're going to get people to sign up and we're going to take a fee for getting that booking. I think that model's definitely up for threat if the property managers and hosts and people around the industry find ways to hack it. Then there's a real challenge going on, I think.
I would agree. I think it's all about self-promotion as well and being able to understand what your guest is looking for. I think AI is going to make it a lot more discoverable to find properties that maybe previously you needed an OTA to find. As long as those properties are doing a great job and have a direct booking site and the site makes sense, I think it's a huge opportunity. And it's something to like.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, it's just, I think you were touching on it and say it's definitely that point of like, it's using the data correctly, isn't it? So finding out why people have booked this property in the past, what it is that's triggered by it, what are they, who is that person, who are they traveling with, what times of the year they like to travel. If you can do that, then before you know it, you make sure that your website and all of the touch points that the AI agent needs to book it or the customer booking it themselves are a hit, right? So you make sure your hero shot on the front page is the right one. Like, does everybody book your property because their family's on the beach? In which case you show a family walking on the beach. It's like all of that stuff is coming into view because of AI. So it goes far beyond just saying like, build a direct booking website and, throw it up there and see. It's more being much more systematic in your approach.
Yeah, it's understanding the guest. It's being hyper-local, and it's going back to basics of really understanding the properties and what each of their unique charms are and what's driving people there. So I think it's a really cool one. I do agree. I think I'm especially the kind of person who I would love to be able to book a trip through AI. We've already established that I'm still better than AI so far, but I think that time is quickly coming where I'm not going to be as good as AI. So I'll accept that defeat gladly when it I really will. But I'm also the first to say, that experience on the ground matters. And that may not just be with the property itself, right? That could be something as simple as the host recommending some restaurants and saying, hey, but before you arrive, hey, by the way, like these are some of my favorite restaurants in the area. If you'd like, let me know a day and a time and I can, call Armando or whatever and make you a reservation because he's my buddy. Those kind of things. I mean, my colleague and friend James does this all the time for his guests at his properties in Tenerife. And he knows all the local restaurateurs and he knows exactly when, and they all kind of have this unspoken rule, which is like, if he sends them somebody, they'll open a table even if they don't have a table. And obviously he brings them business, and so everybody's happy. But I think that kind of personalized touch is really what's going to tip the needle, and make the difference between, okay, you have the efficiency of AI, but you need that real experience too. So
yeah, I like that, Sarah. That's a great way to put it, isn't it? Okay, we're short of time, but I think we have to do an Airbnb update because it's a moving target. Obviously, we broke this news a couple of weeks ago. Sarah, tell us what's going on over there.
Yeah, sure. So again, when at first the cancellation policy updates were announced, it wasn't 100% clear exactly what was going to be going on. Airbnb was all very quiet about it. They have now officially started pushing notifications to property managers and hosts on their platform. Essentially what's happening is the former strict cancellation policy. So that was guests can have a refund of 50% if they cancel 7 days or more before check-in. And then there was no refund if it was canceled fewer than 7 days. That was the normal strict policy. Basically, you now have to opt in to be grandfathered in to keep that strict cancellation policy if you have it currently. Otherwise, you'll be moved to their firm policy, which gives guests 100% refund if canceled 30 days or more before check-in. So this is the massive change, especially for those luxury properties. 50% refund if it's canceled between 7 and 30 days, and then no refund if it's canceled fewer than 7 days. So that really doesn't change. And the 50% refund doesn't change. But what is changing here from that strict to that firm is the 100% refund if it's within 30 days of check-in. Which imagine for a large property or one of those luxury properties that tend to have a longer booking window, that can absolutely be potentially detrimental to those businesses. Airbnb also previously made an exception for luxury properties, allowing them what was called like super strict 30 and super strict 60, which was zero refund if it was canceled within 30 days or within 60 days, depending on the nature of the property. And it remains to be seen if there's no mention of that, if that's going to remain or not. And Airbnb has been really clear that for any new properties that are signing up after October 1st, 2025, the strict cancellation policy will no longer exist. So the only option you have is this firm policy. And if you currently have strict and want to not be automatically put on the firm, you have to opt into that and specifically go into your account and set those settings. So it definitely seems like Airbnb is going more for, as we mentioned previously, satisfying the guest rather than potentially the host. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what we thought it was going to be, which is, yeah, they've just made it more official. They have been really quiet about it, which I think is an interesting one. Like they've not done a major press release. They've tried to kind of just sweep it under the rug, and now obviously they have to have push notifications for the host to notify them. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like a pretty big change and very quiet from Airbnb about it. So I don't know. What do you think, buddy?
Well, they're definitely trying to sneak it under the rug. So I'm so pleased that we've made sure they haven't been able to sneak it under the rug. Yeah, look, I think the chatter I see online is the same. People are worried about what it means for their business, which is because Airbnb holds such a dominant position in the market. I think if Airbnb was 10% of people's overall distribution, spread equally among all the different OTAs, and then people took the majority of their bookings on their direct booking websites, no one will even be talking about it. So, it's a compliment to Airbnb in a way, and I think it's a reaction to the reality that people like to book on a whim. So if you can try and lock that booking in, but not lock it in, you're more likely to get them to keep it rather than waiting to make that booking. So that's probably Airbnb's bet here. Clearly that has to be the bet because it's about shareholder pressure to making sure revenues can continue to grow versus balancing the desires of their hosting community. I think there's always been this perception that Airbnb will choose the guest over the host when it comes to prioritization. And of course it always will, because it's the guest that starts the process. Without the guest even booking, then none of the rest of the stuff even happens. And again, people are looking to book on a whim, therefore it's a natural reaction to that. Do I think they've handled it well? Not really. Should they have consulted their host more? Probably. Will they get away with it? Almost certainly. And that's the key thing. They will get away with it. I assume as well this grandfathered in policy will at some point be also whipped away once they've seen that they can get away with that. And again, we go back to this whole thing, which is this can be seen as a defensive move, I think, rather than an aggressive move, which is A, reacting to the market, as I've just said, and B, the fear that AI is going to usurp their booking experience and therefore wanting to make it as flexible and guest-centered as possible. Right now, there's a battle going on for the loyalty of the guest, and they're firmly in it, right? And they have to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're trying really hard to keep those guests loyal to Airbnb rather than, and especially with the threat of AI under their tails. I don't know if this is going to do it or not. Maybe it will. I do know that, like, for example, there are some properties that I've looked at where I see the property on the direct booking site, on Vrbo, on Airbnb, on Booking, and the cancellation policies can be different on those different OTAs. And so I usually, especially if I'm looking at a bunch of different options and I haven't totally decided my route yet, a lot of times I will book a bunch of properties that have free cancellation, and then within like a week I'll review. But that's usually when I'm doing it months in advance because I'm a planner. So I don't think I'm ruining anyone's life. And I usually cancel it within like 24 hours because I just want to make sure that I'm not going to lose out on that property if I do decide to take that route. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. It reminds me a little bit of the host fee versus split between host and guest fee debacle that happened a couple of years ago, where Airbnb did exactly the same thing pretty much. They just, from one night to the next, they decided that they were going to change that and make it host only fees for any new properties, and then slowly transition all the other properties. And they're still in that sort of transition process. And there was a lot of grandfathering in, and it took some time and blah, but I mean, basically the majority of properties now are on the kind of host only flat fees. So I think it's a similar thing. I don't think we've seen a massive departure from the Airbnb platform because of that change. So I don't know if this will be different. Airbnb, interestingly, did claim that properties with a firm cancellation policy as opposed to a strict cancellation policy make 10% more. However, when asked to dive into those numbers and those calculations and where they came from, they were very silent. So I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But I need to ask Jake what he's got in the data for that, because he could tell me pretty quickly, I bet, if they're full of it or not.
Yeah, or they're favoring them in the algorithm, right? That's always the rumor, isn't it? But yeah, again, I think that's all a bit of a black box, isn't it? Great. Okay, well, we're out of time. Sarah, closes out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have liked today's episode, please hit like, share, subscribe on all of the usual social channels. Until next time, have a fabulous week, everybody.